The following production is produced by the State University of New York College at Oneonta.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside Red Dragon Sports. I'm your host, Geoff Hassard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at SUNY Oneonta. And tonight we've invited into the studio the head track and field coach here at Oneonta, Amy Dawson, along with two other athletes from our women's team. So stay tuned after the break where my first guest tonight will be head track and field coach Amy Dawson.
Hi, how are you doing today?
What looks good?
Our special today is shrimp scampi. It's been sitting around for about a week.
Excuse me, what time are you guys leaving? We're gonna rob your house tonight.
Don't you wish there were warnings to protect you from life's risks? With diabetes, there is one. It's called A1C, a simple blood test that helps measure your risk of serious complications. Learn more at diabetesa1c.org.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is head track and field coach Amy Dawson. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Geoff.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you found your way to Oneonta?
Well, I'm an upstate New York kid. I grew up in Cortland. I went to Geneseo. I graduated from Geneseo, worked at Hartwick, and then from there left the state for 10 years. Dabbled in Division I. I was at Indiana State for a couple of years. Started the women's track and field program at Jacksonville State in Alabama. From there, I went to Valparaiso University outside of Chicago in Indiana. Then I took a break from the college ranks and coached high school in the state of Washington. And then it was time to come back home to New York State, and here I am today.
So you're like a wayward traveler.
I am. I've been a little bit everywhere.
Well, we certainly thank you for coming by tonight.
No problem.
Why don't we talk a little bit about your experience as a student athlete at SUNY Geneseo?
I absolutely loved it. I came out of high school having played basketball and done track and field. So having been playing basketball, I never ran indoor until I got to Geneseo. And that was an eye-opener for me. I didn't know indoor existed, let alone what I was going to do with it. But in high school, I was a high jumper, 100-meter hurdler, 400-meter hurdler, and on the 4x4. When I got to college, Coach had me pegged as a pent and heptathlete, but we kind of disagreed on my future in that regard for a couple of years. So when I first showed up, I stuck with the high jump and the hurdles, and then I branched out and learned javelin, shot, triple, long. And then by the time I was a junior, end of sophomore year, junior year, Coach convinced me it was about time to step into the pent and heptathlon. Had some success there. It was fun, grueling but fun. Yeah, now let's just, so people out there that don't know much about track and field, the pentathlon is an indoor? Indoor for the women and actually for the men now. Yeah. It's now in the national meet. It hasn't been before until this year. Made up of what events? 5 events. For the women in order it goes the 55 or 60 meter hurdles, high jump, shot put, long jump, and the 800. The guys keep the same events, but they get to do the 1,000 at the end of the day. Okay. Now, in the heptathlon is an outdoor event? Yes. And so that's how many events? That's 7. Okay. So you swap out the 55 hurdles for the 100-meter hurdles, and then you add the javelin and the 800, and it's a 2-day event. Okay. Now, that's the equivalent to the men's decathlon, where it's 10 events, and they compete over a 2-day as well. Correct. Now, it's not an event that, because I'd just like to talk about it because it is an interesting event to be able to do those what we call multi-event performers, because we do have some here. You don't compete those all the time. No. I mean, you got to find a meet somewhere where you can. There's a couple different ways to do it, and that's always a challenge as a multi-event athlete and as a coach of multi-eventers. You can, and I have, do all 5 in one day in a regular open meet in competition, which mentally you got to be on top of your game because at least 3 of your events are going on simultaneously. So you really got to stay on top of what's going on and not get frustrated when something's not clicking right away and just get after what you can when you've got it. Or you can go to an actual multi-event meet where they run it quote unquote by the numbers. So they do the first events, they take the 30 minutes break in between, then move to the next event, and then so on and so forth. So there are different ways to tackle the problem of how do you get in your competitions and your points as a multi-eventer. It just kind of depends on your philosophy and time of year and a lot on your kid.
Right.
I think Coach liked me because I was rather independent, a little bit headstrong and stubborn enough. I was going to do it one way or the other. Not everyone is like that.
Right. Now, usually multi-event performers, athletes, do they have like what we would consider a strong event and then they have to kind of grow and learn in the other events?
Most of us do. I still kind of consider myself as a multi-eventer. For me, my strong points were the hurdles and the high jump. That's where I was going to get my most points. Okay. So in the running events, the faster your time, the more points you get. In the field events, the further your distance or the higher your height, the more points you get. So you always try to really go after your strong events and do the best you can in your weaker ones.
Right.
And again, that's part of the fun and the challenge of being a multi-eventer. Yeah, so for me, high jump and hurdles were it. I did pretty decently in shot. I had a penchant for being injured and jumping off of both legs in the long jump. So depending on which leg hurt less, my long jump would vary. And 800, I had a mental issue with that. That was definitely my kryptonite.
Okay, that's what I was going to say.
Not
What
an
was the
800
most
fan.
frustrating?
For me, the 800. I knew it was coming. It was at the end of the day, and it was just the, looking at the points and coach saying, okay, you need to stay X amount of time or distance behind this kid, and you're going to win it, or finish where we need. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. So for me, mentally, it was 800.
Right.
If I knew then what I know now, I would have been a much better 800-meter runner. And it wouldn't have scared me so much. But I think that it's helped me as a coach turn around and look at whether it's I have a multi-event kid that I'm working with or any kid in event if they're trying something new. I know what that feels like to be completely petrified and scared and not liking it and having that mental block. And
Right.
I think I've kind of help people figure out how to get past that.
Right. Now, so you can actually specifically, if somebody knows they're strong, like, high jump hurdles, whatever, do they spend more time working on the other events to try and see if they can get more points, or do they just say, hey, I'm going to just do the best I can? And
it kind of depends on the philosophy of the program. When I was at Indiana State, I was 2 years out of college. I just coached Division III national champion in the women's high jump. So I had a lot of success very early in my coaching career. I stepped into Indiana State as the primary coach for the decathlon, for the decathletes and the heptathletes. The philosophy at Indiana State was, we're going to focus on your prime events first because you don't do very many multi-event competitions.
Right.
They're just not that often, and particularly when you go outdoors for the deck and the hep, you can't really pull those off in one day. Right. They are set up as 2-day events. So it was definitely focus on your primary events, and I was more like a flight control tower, making sure that they did get to work on their off events. Excuse me. So that they weren't completely lopsided when it came to what they were really good at versus what they were not so good at.
okay, so a lot of it is individual, the athlete, if they think, hey, I'll put a little extra time into trying to get a better 800.
Yeah, athletes are different. That's right. Kind of the joy of track and field. It's not basketball where you have a play and everyone works together. It's you versus the clock, or you getting over the bar. Right. So again, as a coach, you kind of have to know your kid.
Right.
You might have people that have the talent to be a multi-eventer, but if you don't have the mental talent to be a multi-eventer, it doesn't matter. Right. So that the mental game is a lot of the game. So yeah, taking the time and figuring out who works best with what philosophy is a challenge.
It's track.
It's track.
Do we have any multi-eventers in our program right now?
Yes and no. Casey Boberka.
Or potential?
Potential. Casey Boberka coming from the volleyball program, she was a multi-eventer in high school. I actually have several multi-eventers that did the pentathlon in high school, men and women. And when I first got here and I looked at what the program was missing and what we needed, those are the kind of kids I went after for a reason, because they do have a wide range of expertise And in the back of my mind, I said, yeah, this one's going to stay a multi. This one, we're going to see how it works out, and then we'll probably just focus on 1 or 2 areas. Okay. And if I were to have someone do a straight up multi-event right now, Casey would be that first person. But again, I do share her. She's not mine 100%. So I also have to be cognizant that I don't want to burn her out before she gets back to Cashman in the fall. Right. So that's also a delicate balance. And so for Casey right now, we're just working on staying healthy, staying focused, and being comfortable with what she is good at first before we start throwing a lot of off events at her. Right. So we'll see as we move on to outdoors where we go.
She is a pretty good athlete.
Oh, she is an amazing athlete.
Just watching her play volleyball.
It is. Some of it is kind of, you know, the throws coach and I, we kind of fight back and forth. She's like, I want her to come throw. I'm like, I want her to stay over here and jump. So it's kind of, we got to see what's best for the kid as well as for the program and go from there.
So you could take a kid who was a multi-eventer in high school and they might just not be able to do it at this level, but you can also find a place for them because they might be a good high jumper or a 200-meter sprinter.
Exactly, and that's what I was looking for, because actually there are at least 6 kids currently on the roster that did the Pent in high school that none of them are doing it now. But like Sean Wren, sophomore, he was a pentathlete. Right. He's my 400 hurdle guy. Right. We're going to leave him there. Dustin Cox, freshman this year, who is doing great in the high jump right now. Just qualified for ECACs. I'm looking for him to do some good things there and in the 100 hurdles, or excuse me, 110 hurdles. It's a lot harder for the guys to bump up and do the multi-events in college than the women because the implements get heavier. Yep. Dustin's not a big guy, so a 16-pound shot put is a lot to manage. And he'd have a lot more events to learn. He'd have to learn pole vault, he'd have to learn discus, he'd have to keep working on long jump. And right now, that's just not a good fit for him. Sean Bernstein, who's lighting it up in the sprints for us, he did the multi-events a couple times. So, again, I like the kids that've got the range, and then it's just when they get here, seeing how they fit in and where they mesh and where they're going to be the most successful, and then that's what we concentrate on. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about, at the end here, let's talk about this year's women's team, because we're going to have Lauren Brunetto on, and tomorrow, we'll also have Liz Majika on. What have you seen so far? We've had some good performances. We've had, 5 invitationals that we've been to, and so talk about some of our top performers and where we think we're at right now. Doing a great job. I mean, Lauren and Liz both had amazing seasons last year. Liz as a sophomore and Lauren as a freshman last year, now coming back as a junior and a sophomore respectively. They ended the year fantastic. They're starting the year fantastic. Liz has been tearing it up in the 200. I believe she's currently leading the conference. She's qualified for ECAC. She's doing an amazing job. We're going to try her in some of the longer events. We haven't run our A relay yet, and we're 2 weeks out from SUNY, so it's about time to put the best on the track and see how it goes. So that's really exciting. We've got 15 freshman females in the program this year, which is huge. Yeah, they completely outnumber our returning upper-class women. So that's been fun. And they're split between, the distance program and then, the sprints, jumps, and throws. We got Kate Parsons in the throws. She's doing a great job. She's learning everything really quick and performing beautifully. We've got Sarah Timmons, who's coming back as a sophomore, who was a conference champion for us last year. She's already qualified for ECACs now. We're starting to have the serious conversation of, I want to take a couple girls to nationals this year, and she's like, and I want to go. I want to be one of them. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want to hear. So we've got some really good pieces. I'm excited. Now, Sarah was another kid who actually was, I think she tried out for our volleyball team, tried out for the she was almost like a multi-sport person in high school. She was a multi-eventer too, actually. She did. Yeah. And that's the beauty about track and field. We're kind of the backbone of what everybody else wants. Right. We've got the strength, we've got the power, we've got the speed, and we've got the mental game to do anything. And Sarah fell into the throws, and it's worked out pretty well for her. So yeah, she's picked up those implements and done very well. And she's done a very good job with those. So now, we're, like you said, we're about a couple weeks out from the SUNYAC championship meet. Last year we were 8th on the women's side, or indoors 6th. We were in the, where do we think we're going to be? Outdoors, we went from being 8th to 5th. Indoors, we were also 5th. Okay. You know, we lost Steph Gordon and Janine Sackett to graduation, but we kept everybody else, and like I said, we added in a ton of new freshmen.
Right.
So the girls that are rolling over from cross country, they had a great season there. They're having great seasons now. That's kind of the exciting and the scary part as a coach. You're looking at a very young program going into a very important meet, and it's only going to go two ways. It's either going to be really great, or we're going to stumble a little bit. But the best part is our youth.
Right.
Even if we stumble, we are going to come back from it, and we're going to learn from it, and we're going to be better for it in the long run.
So where do you think we'll be? You think we can get into the top 4 this year, or are we still a year away, like you said, with the young kids? Or?
We'll see. That's a tough call, because we've been looking at the lists, and some of the other schools have had some surprises. We're like, oh.
But it looks like our squad has more depth.
We do. We have a lot more depth this year than we've had in the past.
Right.
Definitely since I've been here.
Right.
So that's very exciting. So it's kind of a fun problem to have.
Right.
Where are we going to put fill in the blank?
Right.
We can go here, 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 here. It's what is going to be the best fit for both the athlete and the program.
Right.
And that's a lot to ask of a young squad, but we got to ask it and see what we get back in return, to see if we're on track or if we're pushing things a little soon. So.
Okay, well, we certainly wish you good luck in a couple weeks at the SUNY meet with the men and the women. And we hopefully maybe can have you back to talk a little more outdoor stuff, because of course there's more events during the outdoor season.
Yes.
A lot more fun to have. I mean, I was a track athlete as well, and it's like a circus sometimes. You're out there and there's people running and throwing and jumping, but it's exciting.
It is. There's never a dull moment at a track meet.
Right. So
unless the timing system goes down.
Yeah. And we hope that doesn't happen.
No.
We'd like to thank you for stopping by today, and we certainly wish you good luck.
Thank you very much.
As the upcoming months, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank AMA for coming by today, and we'd like to, after the break, we'll be joined in studio by sophomore Lauren Brunetto.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is sophomore track and field athlete as well as cross-country athlete Lauren Brunetto. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming by. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm from Dutchess County. I went to Beacon High School, and here I'm a secondary education major and English major as well. And I am on the track and field and cross-country team.
Now, I'd really like to focus today for you on your, because you're a sophomore, and you're the first sophomore we've had on our show this year, and we've never really been able to talk to someone about making that transition as a freshman in college, especially athletically, coming from high school. You might be a successful high school athlete. Could you tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to make that transition? Because you didn't run cross country for us last year. You just ran cross country for us this year. But you did run track and field, and you did have some success. You were the SUNY champion in the outdoor 800, which was outstanding. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about what that transition was like from high school to college? Okay.
Well, coming to college, it was nerve-wracking, of course. And doing track made it a little bit easier, I feel like, making the adjustment to college. I didn't do cross country, and I feel like if I did do cross country, the adjustment would have been a little bit easier to go onto the track team, because I didn't know anyone. Like, everything was different. I didn't do anything that we do here in high school, so it was a little scary. But I feel like the coaches and my teammates, they made it a lot easier for me to develop as an athlete, because I didn't know anything. I didn't know the right way to eat. I didn't know the right way to practice. I didn't know anything. So it was exciting and it was nerve-wracking, but I feel like I adjusted well.
Now, athletically, I'll talk a little bit about, but what was it like academically? I mean, of course, now you're on your own. You kind of have to depend on yourself to get to class, get up and go and do those things. Did your teammates help you in that area, some of the upperclassmen with that as well?
Yeah, everyone was offering advice and everything, but it was pretty easy for me because all through high school I always worked, I always did track, I always had school, so I was pretty good with time management in that sense. So my grades didn't suffer or anything from being on the track team or from coming to college, which was good.
Now, when we say the training program that we're involved with our track and cross country program, because they're similar, I mean they mesh together. How have you found that training to work for you? I mean, obviously, you know, being a SUNY champion, someone would say, oh, it's worked great. But I mean, there is a lot more that you have to do, like you said, eating right and getting the amount of sleep and, you know, rest. The rest days are so important in our program.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how that also changed the way you do things?
Well, at first I didn't know what to do. So as the season progressed, like winter and spring last year, I started learning that like if I start doing things outside of practice, it'll start benefiting me. And I'm learning that more with time. It's hard when you're in college, like it's hard to eat right, it's hard to do the right things, it's hard sometimes, but with your teammates and you want to make them happy, you want to make your coaches happy, it's a little bit easier because then you want to make yourself happy as well. Like you want to do well and you know that if you don't eat right, if you do the wrong things, like you won't be as successful as you can be. So
now, what kind of differences do you find between the grind of the cross-country season, which is, you know, it's almost 3 months long, and you end the season running in November where it could be snowing in some of your meets. What kind of differences between, you know, your track and your cross-country kind of training? I mean, is it all the same, or do you get more specific with some of your events?
It's definitely more specific. I train with just a few girls, and that's the 800, 400, 800 group. So it's definitely more specific, but cross country is more of a tight-knit group, and it's a lot closer as a team, I feel like. So that's why I enjoyed it more. But the training for cross country is a little bit hard. I wasn't used to it, but I picked up on it, and it definitely is going to help me with indoor and outdoor seasons.
Right, and right now you're qualified for SUNY, and we got that coming up in a couple weeks. And last year you finished second in the indoor 800. This year I believe you had the fastest time in the conference as of now. Any pressure? I mean, what's that like? You're like the defending champion almost. So
it's a lot of pressure, I feel like, but it's exciting too because I want to beat my PR, like constantly every meet, beat it again. And like when I came here, my best time in indoor was probably 2:26. So when I ran the 2:18 at BU, I was like, training must be right, like I must be doing something right. So that was pretty cool. And continuing to do well in SUNY is important, but we'll see.
Now, it's funny because the 800 has been kind of a good event for us in our track program. And of course, we had Caitlin O'Sullivan a few years ago, and she was an All-American. So, I mean, do you try to live up to those standards as well? Some of the people who have run in our program, you know, coming in as a young?
Yeah, I try not to put too much pressure on myself because I feel like it's not healthy. But whatever I'm doing, it's working. Like not putting too much stress on myself and just listening to what my coaches say. I feel like that's just making me into a better 800 runner. So
you're feeling very comfortable with all the training and how you go about your academics, and that transition has been pretty good.
Yeah, with the help of the coaches and the teammates, it's been pretty good.
What are you looking for at the SUNY? I mean, as a team and individually, because of course, even though track is an individual sport, you still have that team element of combining all the scores and trying to come out with a championship. So what are you looking for in the next couple weeks? I'm excited to see what happens at SUNY because all the freshmen are really good, and it's going to be exciting to see how they do at SUNY. And I'm excited to run with the 4x4 and see if we can qualify for nationals, which would be cool, but we'll see. Well, okay, well then certainly we wish you good luck. We hope that you are well rested and don't get any injuries between now and the SUNY, and we certainly hope that we can see your name at the top of the list at the end of the day at the 800 and whatever other events that you're entered in. So thanks for stopping by. Thank you. All right, and good luck. Thank you. I'd like to thank Lauren for coming by today. And after the break, I'll be joined in studio by Junior Liz Majica.
WUOW 104.7 FM is the region's premier radio station, offering award-winning programming from National Public Radio and Pacifica Radio networks, giving you the chance to become more informed about the arts, information, and entertainment from around the country and around the world. WUOW is your community radio station. Join us and support the sound.
Welcome back to the show. Joining me now in studio is Liz Majika of the women's track and field team. Welcome to the show, Liz.
Hi, Jeff.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I am a junior dietetics student here at Oneonta, and I am from Fort Edward, and I graduated from Hudson Falls High School.
Okay, and you said Fort Edward is what? Halfway between?
Lake George and Saratoga.
Okay, nice place. Place to grow up?
Yeah, very nice. Small town, but very nice.
Yeah, small town. Okay, track season has started. You guys have got about 5 meets under your belt here. How do you think it's going so far?
Really good. We had a really good last weekend. We went to Syracuse. A lot of people qualified for SUNYACs. A lot of people qualified for ECACs. Tons of people are close to NCAAs, which is great.
Now yourself, you've qualified in a few events, ECAC yourself.
Yep, the 200, the 4x2, and the 4x4.
Now the 4x2 that's not an event that they run at the Nationals, right? It's
or
just
the 200, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now outdoors they do run it.
Yes.
Do you think it's going to be an event? I know you do the 400 hurdles, but do you think that's an event that you might double up in this year? Or?
I would like to, but normally they're very close in the order of events, and I've been very successful in the 400 hurdles in the past. So.
Right, success, defending SUNYAC champion outdoors last year.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How does the, let's talk a little bit about your training. You came in, you do the indoor, you do the 60-meter hurdles, 55, what is it, 60?
Both,
oh,
whatever
okay.
the track has at the time.
So it could be either or. At the SUNYACs they run?
55.
Okay, 55 hurdles. And then you're also doing the 200, and right now you're in first. You got the fastest time in the conference right now in the 200-meter dash.
Yep.
Pretty exciting.
Very exciting.
Your training, how do you think because you're a junior now, you came in as a freshman, maybe your performances weren't what you might think, but how getting to this point now as a junior, your training, and how's that gone for you?
Really well. At first, it was a huge transition from high school to college track, just a completely different workout, just different beliefs, learning to lift, but I'm a lot stronger than when I got here, and as you can see from my last season, right. I've come a long way.
Now, do you think the influence has been from the people that were here before? Last year we had our men's program, we had national champions, and you guys all kind of trained together, do some of the same workouts. Have they influenced you during those 2 years?
Yes. The boys that graduated last year, Eric coming back this year, he's a huge help. He's very supportive. Eric Beats,
as an assistant coach, one of our 4x4, and of course someone who developed over the 4 years. I mean, he went from a 53-second quarter miler to a 47, 48, which is quite a jump in such a, people think it's a short distance, but it's really not when you get out there. So for him to develop during that time, some of the training methods he used, you think help you as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can see that for him it worked. So it makes me want to try, makes me want to do it. He's there every day in practice, fixing the little things that help with the big things. So he's a huge help.
Now it really is, we've had cross-country athletes on. We've had, Amy was on yesterday talking about the track and field. She was on earlier in the show. What kind of, in your dietetics major, how do you incorporate nutrition and all that kind of stuff into your training regimen?
Another huge transition from high school to college was, the little things help with the big things. Being a dietetics major, learning how to eat, what's appropriate, what's not, what's going to help me, what's going to help with recovery. Athletes have to eat different than people who don't do such intense workouts. It's really, really helped me.
Now, what kinds of foods do you consider, good foods for what you do and help you along the way, as opposed to what we would say bad foods?
Well, I try to get as much fruits and vegetables, of course, in a day. More protein, I think I eat more protein than the average student athlete or anyone would eat.
Now the protein helps in just your overall muscle recovery?
Yep, muscle recovery, help repairs muscle fibers that are damaged, anything like that.
So now when you're in the weight room and do you lift heavy weights? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of weight routine do you have?
We're actually, AMA's put us on the Olympic lifting for me. Not everyone's got something different, but I've been successful with that in the past. So it's a heavy lifting. It's gradually heavier and heavier
then we retest every 6 weeks to see if your maxes have increased, and they have increased every 6 weeks, so I'd say I'm getting stronger.
Well, that's good. Now, overall, is that upper and lower body, or is it just legs?
No, upper and lower.
Okay.
Definitely more lower than upper, but we still put upper into the lift.
Right, because you don't want to, I mean, you don't want to put on too much muscle mass, I would think, because then maybe that would change the way you run and your style. So certainly you have to take care of that. Now, what are you looking forward to? We've got a couple weeks left until the SUNY championship meet. Last year we were, we improved both indoor and outdoor from the year before. Do we think we're going to have a bunch of SUNY champions and get into the top quarter of our conference?
I hope so. We have a very young team, but we've come a long way. I think that the program that we're working on has worked for everyone. From Syracuse to even the meet before, everyone's improved significantly. New PRs, new qualifiers, so I'm hoping that we'll move up from last year.
Now, what some of the new runners on the team? Of course, we had an influx of a lot of cross-country kids from Coach LaPiccolo's cross-country squads, and I know that they're performing well in the middle distance and distance events. Do you think that that's helped the overall? Because we know it's an individual sport and everybody has to do their job, but it still is a team, where everybody has to kind of pitch in and do their job, right?
Yeah, the middle distance people definitely help. I mean, they can go up to an 800, they can come down to a 400. There's lots of girl freshman sprinters this year, which is unusual, and they're working hard, and you can already see how much they've improved since they've gotten here. Now,
we were talking before we went on the air that there aren't a lot of seniors on our team, so you're kind of like a team leader. I mean, do the younger kids that are now coming into the program, especially the sprinters, do they watch you, talk with you, try to find out some, things that would help them perform better? I mean, as a leader?
I think so. I know that we like to try to lift together, do team activities together. I think so. They ask for advice when they need it. I'm always willing to help anybody who asks.
Right.
But they definitely work hard, and it shows. They're very serious at practice. They know that we take it serious. So.
Well, that's certainly good. Now, as we move in, because of course track season begins in like October and you run all the way till May in the Nationals, a long season, so you do have to kind of prepare, and it is different, indoor, outdoor, they're different as far as events. You might go a little longer, a little shorter or something, but what kind of a difference do you see in yourself in the way you prepare for indoor and outdoor season?
It's a huge difference only because in indoor we have such a small space, we don't have a very big facility here to run in, but so we're doing a lot of short sprints, and then when we go outdoor, I think we make it longer. The hurdle races significantly longer.
Right.
So just the amount that we do, I think, is just longer.
Okay. So, well, we certainly want to thank you for coming by today, and we wish you good luck in a couple weeks, and then also throughout the outdoor season. We hope you stay healthy, and we hope you win a couple of SUNY titles this year. Well, we certainly would like to wish you good luck the rest of the way during the indoor and outdoor season, and we'd like to thank you for coming by today. And we'd like to thank all my guests on tonight's show, head coach of the track and field program, Amy Dawson, and along with Liz and Lauren Bonetto. And we'd like to thank you for joining us on this week's show, and please join us next Monday for another episode of Inside Red Dragon Sports.